A very warm welcome to the programme. Western nations continue to accuse Russia of making further preparations to invade Ukraine by increasing its military presence at its borders. The White House says as many as 7,000 additional Russian troops had recently been deployed. There's been no independent confirmation of a Russian media report that Ukrainian forces have violated the conditions of a ceasefire agreement by firing mortars at separatist rebels in the Luhansk district. Tim Ullman reports.
This doesn't look much like a withdrawal. The satellite images from a private American company appear to show a build-up of armoured vehicles, helicopters and artillery. Then there's this, what looks like a pontoon bridge built across the Pripyat River, not far from Ukraine's border with Belarus.
The situation is controlled by our military. We don't see any changes now. We see a large accumulation of troops. We're seeing small rotations. I wouldn't call these rotations the withdrawal of forces by Russia. We just can't say that.
Russia insists you can. They released video footage showing tanks being loaded onto a train. Their final destination, we're told, their home base, now that military exercises have come to an end. But Washington remains sceptical. There's no withdrawal, quite the opposite in fact.
We're in the window where we believe an attack could come at any time, and that would be preceded by a fabricated pretext that the Russians use as an excuse to launch an invasion. And we've seen, and we've talked about this a bit in here, we've seen these tactics used in the past.
Although the US says there will be no military response if Russia does invade, America is building up its presence in the region. Several hundred more troops arriving in Poland, reassuring NATO allies while hoping the worst won't happen.
We can talk about ways of avoiding Russia feeling unnecessarily threatened, and we should continue to explore all of those options in order to avert what would be an absolutely catastrophic large-scale war in the centre of Europe.
Diplomacy continues. The British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, fresh from a fairly fractious meeting in Moscow, is expected in Ukraine. And the UN Security Council will discuss the crisis later on Thursday. All the while, Ukrainian military drills go on, preparing for an invasion many fear is still imminent. Tim Ullman, BBC News.
Well, let's speak to our correspondent now in Kiev, the Ukrainian capital, James Waterhouse. So, James, we're hearing there that Russia is saying they're moving troops away. The US is saying that is false. What are you hearing?
Well, according to President Zelensky, it is too early to say whether Russia is pulling back or not. Look, two such announcements in as many days by Moscow that it is withdrawing from military drills as planned has done nothing to convince both Ukraine and the West that that is in fact their intent. As we've just heard, they think quite the opposite, that there is in fact a build-up going the other way. 7,000 more troops were being told, armoured vehicles, helicopters, as well as a field hospital. President Zelensky yesterday, in the face of all these predictions about an invasion happening on Wednesday, called a day of unity. There have been national flags waving. He once again appeared in a green uniform and did a unity tour of the country from west to east in Mariupol, where he ended up. He thanks soldiers there, calling them heroes and saying, "You're not frightened by forecasts." And that is pretty much what the message that we've heard all along and what we expect to hear. Jens Stoltenberg of NATO has described this Russian aggression, use of military force to challenge the European security order, as the new normal. And as you've heard, as we've got these NATO troops now announcing longer term placements, if you like, deployments in Eastern Europe, this could be quite a drawn out crisis.
And as you say, yesterday was very much a day of bringing people together in Ukraine, the day of unity. What's the mood like then this morning?
Well, this morning it's very much the status quo, more uncertainty. What usually happens over and over again is when Russia demonstrates this long, drawn-out campaign of aggression, certainly here in Kiev, there are more demonstrations of unity and nationalism and sort of a sense of patriotism. And we saw that yesterday, and today that will go on. There's certainly no Ukrainians that we've spoken to that believe these Russian announcements, these carefully choreographed statements and videos of military movement. No one's buying it here because this is all they've really known for the past 8 years. So that uncertainty does go on.
All right. For now, thank you, James Wardhouse there in Kiev for us. We'll speak to him again soon.